As usual, let's analyze the cryptocurrency market. Before we start, I want to make a few notes. First, there are still people who, despite everything that has happened in the market, still think that Bitcoin is a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme. These people do not even know what a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme is because they have not even bothered to search for the definition on the internet. If they had, they would clearly see that Bitcoin is not one. They are simply lost and have no intention of understanding it because they don't even want to look up what a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme is. It's incredible that even today, 6 years after being told this, there are still ignorant people who don't bother to look up the definitions of things like what a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme is. When Bitcoin was a new asset that was only on the internet, it was easy to spread this message, and it was easy for it to take hold among people who don't think, because they don't even bother to look up what it is. But at this point, for someone to still think it's a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme without even looking up the definition, I'm not going to waste my time explaining it, because everyone can look it up on the internet, and it's clear that Bitcoin doesn't fit that definition at all. It just takes a little bit of common sense to realize that it wouldn't be trading on Wall Street, that the most prestigious investment firms in the world wouldn't be launching ETFs on a market if it were a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme, because that's illegal, and the SEC wouldn't be approving the trading of a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme. Just a little bit of common sense, without even having to make the effort of looking up what a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme is, and how they work with referral systems and guaranteeing a percentage of profits. Here, no one guarantees any percentage of profits. There's no referral system. You don't benefit because someone buys Bitcoin with your link. Nothing like that. This is a normal market based on supply and demand, and Bitcoin has value because it's the largest decentralized network in the world, and that has a price. And some say it's not physical. You can't touch it. Well, there are things that are not physical that are more valuable than physical things, like the time we all have. You couldn't put a price on having 100 more years of life in good health, but everyone would pay everything they have for that. Well, Bitcoin is the same. Just because it's not tangible in the physical plane, it doesn't mean it has no value. In fact, it has value for many reasons, one of which is what we've just said. But there are other reasons why it has value. For example, it can monetize resources that otherwise couldn't be monetized, just by mining in a place where the electricity generated in that place couldn't be brought to the population because it would be super expensive. We've said this a million times. Or for example, in that place where they're constantly burning a gas well in Turkmenistan, I think it's called the mouth of hell or something like that. That resource could be monetized there, for example. That has enormous value. And well, all the freedom it gives, etc. Freedom also has a price in the end. So Bitcoin is freedom, and we're going to link this to the next news we're going to comment on, which is in line with what we were saying yesterday about the European Central Bank. I mean, those who dominate us, who have us under their thumb, know that we're very stupid, because if there are still people, like I said, even at this point, thinking that Bitcoin is a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme, well, those who see will say, well, these guys who can't even bother to search Google for what this is, let's just shove it all down their throats. Well, the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis is directly telling us that governments should tax or ban Bitcoin to maintain the deficit. That is, they're telling us straight to our faces that we're stupid, and they're telling us straight to our faces that they're going to try to ban Bitcoin to maintain the deficit. The Fed of Minneapolis suggests that a ban or tax on Bitcoin could guarantee its ability to incur permanent budget deficits. That is, Bitcoin could force them to do the right thing. That is, it could deprive them of their ability to incur permanent budget deficits. They're telling us that Bitcoin could force them to only spend what they take in, and not always spend more than they take in. Do you know what it implies to spend more than you take in? I suppose it implies that you're harming future generations. Well, and the current one as well over time. That is, we're living beyond our means, we're spending more than we have, but then that has to be paid for in the long run. These generations are already starting to pay for all the overspending we've done in recent years, like with inflation. It's not a cost that comes and says to you, well, you have to pay $3,000 for 1,000 or 10,000 because we've become indebted and every citizen owes 100,000. You have to pay 10,000. They don't do it that way because if they did, people would revolt. They do it in a way that you lose purchasing power. They take those 10,000 away from you without taking the 10,000 physically, but by making it so that you can buy 10,000 less. So you don't realize that they've charged you $10,000 for overspending year after year. But they've charged you in a way that you're able to buy $10,000 less. That's how it works. They spend more, and we all pay for it. And these people are telling us straight to our faces that what they want is to tax Bitcoin or ban it. Because if not, they won't be able to continue with their machinations of spending more and ruining future generations. Because this loss of purchasing power and this ever-increasing debt, what it does is it's being unsolicited against future generations. Because if you're constantly increasing the debt, someone's going to have to pay for it in the end with their purchasing power. That is, those who live in the future will be very, very poor because now we're spending too much. And these people want to continue with this scheme, and Bitcoin could prevent this scheme because it tells us here that Bitcoin introduces a balanced budget trap, That is a different state in which the government is forced to balance its budget. Well, it's what they should always do, balance the budget. That is, Bitcoin is forcing them to do that. And they're saying that's a bad thing? How shameless can they be to say that? The researchers used Bitcoin as an example of private sector security with a fixed supply with no claims on real resources, and concluded that it should be banned or taxed to resolve the dilemma. A legal ban against Bitcoin can restore the unique implementation of permanent primary deficits, just like a tax on Bitcoin. That is, they're telling us that what they want is to have permanent deficits. They want to always spend more than they take in. It seems incredible, but then you see how most people think, who don't even bother to look up on the internet the things that are there. All the information that explains exactly what a pyramid scheme is, what a Ponzi scheme is, it's all there. You can even search for the words to see if they exist or not, but people don't look it up. Someone says it's a pyramid scheme. Yes, okay. And they believe it. They don't even know how a pyramid scheme works, but they believe it because someone said it. So they're telling us these things straight to our faces. They're telling us that Bitcoin is bad because it forces you to keep the budget balanced. Of course, the politicians can't steal if the budget